covered.
Blackouts across Nigeria as national grid collapses.
The UN is warning of the consequences of Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
We are right on.
Nigeria Info.
Your number one station for talk.
It's 6 o'clock.
This is the news on 92.3 Nigeria Info.
Good evening. It's Wednesday, 19th July 2023. Peace is the path to the prosperity of a nation. Let peace reign. On the news this evening, more Port Harcourt residents resort to trekking as transport fares soar. House of Representatives reject call for suspension of new fuel price. Court sentences pastor to 7 years in prison for defiling impregnating teenager in Ndele community, Rivers State. Environmentalist Utia Hassa pushes for environmental impact assessment on Port Harcourt Ring Road. Supreme Court says CJN had no phone conversation with President Tinubu. And on the foreign scene, Afghan women protest closure of beauty salons. I am Constance Mega. Many Port Harcourt residents have now resorted to trekking following the high cost of transportation occasioned by the new pump price of petrol. Our correspondent reports that many road users now trek some distance along their designated routes to reduce the amount spent on transport fare on the same route. It comes as petrol outlets of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, in Port Harcourt now sell petrol for 591 naira per litre. Our correspondent who is monitoring the situation reports that some independent marketers are selling as high as between 600 naira and 610 naira per litre, while some commercial drivers who ply the east-west road say the situation is affecting transportation.
It worry us where you buy fuel, you can't drive, nothing they come out. So passengers on the track where the whole team will carry go pay for fuel. We know if you work motor. May they do something about this fuel of 18.
I go buy fuel for filling station. Fuel of 3,050 naira, which is 5 litre. I get only 3,000. 50 naira don't loss. No profits. Now loss. 610 naira. They must do something.
The environment is scanty. The few ones where they come out, they complain too much. We they stay 2 hours before one motor go load. We don't know where would they go for this country because fuel control everything.
The thing that affects us well. Passengers self they trek now self they waka. So we don't even see passengers again.
I don't usually have profit again because the fuel I'm buying is so expensive. We are having issues with the car owner because we are not meeting up. So at times when we tell the car owner the situation of things, they disagree.
Well, a new petrol pump price was put into effect in the country yesterday. Meanwhile, the Rivers State chairman of the Petroleum Products Retail Outlets Owners Association of Nigeria, Petron, Francis Dimba, says Nigerians should prepare for more increase in fuel prices if the government continues to depend on the exchange rate and the price of crude oil at the international market. Mr. Dimba said this in an interview today.
We have analyzed the market force, so we cannot use the market forces, foreign market forces, to determine the price of product in Nigeria. And government is coming with this kind of excuse again, telling us about market forces determining the price. For us, it's not acceptable. You cannot buy a refined product and bring it at a higher rate and sell at a lower rate because there is no more subsidy.
Well, on his part, chairman of the Nigerian Labour Congress in Rivers State, Alex Sagwanwo, says the union will organize a nationwide strike over the new pump price of petrol. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives today rejected an amendment to a motion seeking to suspend the recent increase in the pump price of petrol. Members voted against the amendment after Deputy Speaker Benjamin Kalu, who presided over plenary, questioned if it was in the place of the House to take such a position since pump price is controlled by the market forces. Well, the House, however, resolved to carry out an investigation into the increase of petrol pump price. Well, still on this, the PDP has described the recent hike in the pump price of petrol as extortion. The PDP stated this in a statement today by its spokesman, Debo Ologunagba. The Colleges of Education Academic Staff Union has directed union members to go to work twice a week due to the current hike in petrol pump price. The president of the union, Smart Olugbeko, in a statement today, said they can no longer survive on the current minimum wage. A former spokesperson of the Nigerian Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs, Anselmi Ibrahim, says if the federal government addresses the issues of power supply and revives local refineries, there will be no need to distribute palliatives to Nigerians. Mr. Ibrahim said this as Muslims celebrate the 1445 Islamic New Year. He urged Muslims to be actively involved in politics and take on activities that will help develop and grow the gross domestic product of the country. He also appealed to the Rivers State Governor, Siminalayi Fubara, to appoint Muslims into public offices in the state. Moving on, an environmental manager in Rivers State, Christian Otiahasa, has urged the Rivers State government to conduct an environmental impact assessment before starting the construction of the Port Harcourt Ring Road. Dr. Otiahasa gave this advice in an interview with correspondent Soibi Oruwari.
A project of this magnitude, crisscrossing several communities, does not have an environmental impact assessment report. Government should take the lead in obeying its laws. The EIA Act does not exempt project of this magnitude from environmental impact study. We cannot begin to cherry pick when and how, where EIA must be done. If government begins to disobey its laws, it will lose the moral impetus to enforce corporate environmental compliance.
But Dr. Otiahasa also spoke on the need to engage communities that will be affected by the construction of the Port Harcourt Ring Road.
Here, we are threatening that if communities, youths, traditional rulers raise any issue concerning this project, they will be dealt with state coercive forces. That is not fair enough. I will tell you, in Sena Climes, they have gone beyond using EIA as the only project advisory. They have now included ecosystem services studies in addition to EIA as advisory, and here, even as close as South Africa, they are doing that.
In the meantime, the president of the Movement for the Development of Oyibo Ethnic Nationality, Victor Ute, wants parts of Oyibo to be included in the design of the Port Harcourt Ring Road. He says it will tackle flooding in the area.
Include Oyibo LGA in the Port Harcourt Ring Road project because it will be unfair for anyone to suggest that Oyibo local government should not be added to the Port Harcourt City Ring Road project that Rivers State government is embarking on. Oyibo LGA is part of Greater Port Harcourt City Development Authority area and has contributed huge quota for the economic gains of Rivers State and Nigeria at large.
In a related development, a stakeholder in the Kalabari region, Robinson Ibinabo, wants the Rivers State government to urgently approve and implement the second phase of the Trans-Kalabari Road. Mr. Ibinabo, who is also the former president, Buguma Youth Council, made the call in an interview with correspondent Martha Okere. He says the Port Harcourt Ring Road will not have any direct impact on the Kalabari or riverine people if it is not constructed alongside the Phase 2 of the Trans-Kalabari Road.
Port Harcourt is a city, and the Kalabari area is already a strong city in the riverine area. And if this is connected to the city, which is Port Harcourt, I believe then will be fulfilled. Or if this Trans-Kalabari Road is affected, it will enhance trade. It will enhance development in the Kalabari region. It will enhance the riverine area to be connected to the Port Harcourt Ring Road. We will be grateful if this Trans-Kalabari Road is urgently awarded vis-a-vis alongside with Port Harcourt Ring Road.
Well, as you may know, Phase 1 of the Trans-Calabari Road is a 13.599 kilometers project. The road links Krakrama, Omekweama, Miniama, and some other riverine communities to the mainland. Well, the first phase of the project was commissioned by the immediate past administration in March. Still to come. Court sentences pastor to 7 years in prison for defiling impregnating teenager in Ndele community, River State. Stay tuned. Marine pollution, especially plastic waste and debris, pose huge ecological and economic problems on global oceans and inland waterways, including the Bonny-Port Harcourt waterway. Plastic litter and debris enter the wetlands and waterways of Bonny and Port Harcourt through a wide range of riverine activities and defective land-based waste management methods. NLNG Ship Management Limited, NSML, is leading a campaign for the development and implementation of sustainable plans and actions to combat the pollution of the Bonny-Port Harcourt wetlands and waterways. Together, we can curb this menace and restore the ecological, economic, and environmental benefits of the waterways. Join us today as we clean up our waterways.
A clean surrounding is a collective effort.
Court has reportedly sentenced a 55-year-old pastor, Pilar Erekwa, to 7 years in prison with hard labor for defiling and impregnating a 15-year-old girl in Ndele community, Emoha local government area. The presiding magistrate, Oge Elkana, in his judgment, ruled that Pastor Erekwa will pay 500,000 naira to the family of the teenage girl for the medical bill accrued during the pregnancy upon completion of the jail term. Well, recall that Mr. Erekwa pleaded guilty to one count charge of sexual abuse preferred against him by the State Criminal Investigation and Intelligence Department, SCIID. Our correspondent reports that journalists were not allowed magistrate to court. It's not like a normal court, and as such, journalists must seek leave of the court before reporting a matter from the family court. And the Supreme Court of Nigeria has clarified that the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Olukayode Ariwola, did not have a telephone conversation with President Bola Tinubu or anyone else on the ongoing presidential election petition on the 2023 election. The Supreme Court, in a statement by its Director of Press and Information, Akonde Festus, said Justice Ariwola did not speak with the President nor the directors with a view to pressurizing the tribunal on the likely judgment to protect witnesses up in prosecution of terrorist negotiator Mr. alleged relationship with terrorists that were involved in the 2022 attack on a Kaduna-bound train. In other news, a member of Kennel Club of River State, Marshal Obuzo, says pets such as dogs are not dangerous at home as some believe. Mr. Obuzo, who said he has owned dogs as pets for over 35 years, gave the advice in an interview with correspondent Emeka Otuka while he was reacting to the killing of a 2-year-old boy by 2 dogs owned by his family in Chokota community, Eche local government area of River State.
Dog ownership, I think it's a good practice. Many of us make the mistake of owning dogs that are not close to us. We have people that look after the dogs, a security man. If you want to have a good practice with your dog and your family should grow together from puppyhood. You should be allowed to be with your children. Dog understands your children and your children understand the dog. If they grow that way, you won't have incidences like this. There are thousands of dogs around the country, but this happens once in a while, mostly when people keep their dogs away from their family.
Well, Mr. Obuzo said a pet can become aggressive to the owner when it is kept in isolation and not allowed proper socialization and attention.
The challenge we have in 70 don't know their dogs don't know them. They just lock the dog up in a cage somewhere, and maybe the security man releases the dog at night. In the morning, he throws food into the dog, in for the dog. Even the owner of the house, in most instances, doesn't know his dog. His wife, his children, they don't know the dog. They don't go near the dog. So the dog grows up seeing them as strangers. The right practice for the family to grow together, and the dog will know itself as part of the family and even know its place in the hierarchy of the family.
And now to business news. Federal, state and local governments are set to share 1.959 trillion naira this month. The Federation Accounts Allocation Committee, FAAC, which allocates the funds, is expected to meet in Abuja today to allocate the revenue to the tiers of governments. Allocations are usually shared from the previous month's revenue. Well, the 1.959 trillion naira is almost triple the 786.161 billion naira shared in June, and much more than the 655.93 billion naira in May. In entertainment, Las Vegas police have searched a home in connection with investigation into the murder of superstar rapper Tupac Shakur nearly 30 years ago. Well, Shakur, one of the most prolific figures in hip-hop, was shot dead on the night of 7th September 1996 in a drive-by shooting in Las Vegas at the age of 25. In sports, former Manchester City defender Benjamin Mendy has signed for League One side Lorient 5 days after being cleared of rape, while the left-back, whose City contract expired in the summer, has signed a 2-year deal with the French club.
And now, we bring you news from around the world.
Women in Afghanistan have held a rare protest against the Taliban's decision to shut female beauty parlors and salons. Women shouted work, bread and justice while they were gathered in the capital city, Kabul. Well, Taliban guards responded with water cannons, and some protesters said stun guns were also used against them. Women's rights have been increasingly restricted since Taliban rulers returned to power in 2021. Around 50 women took part in the protest today. On the news this evening, you heard that more Port Harcourt residents have resorted to trekking as transport fares soar. The House of Representatives has rejected the call for the suspension of new fuel price. The Rivers State Family Court has sentenced a pastor to 7 years in prison for defiling and impregnating a teenager in Ndele community, Emoha local government area. An environmentalist, Christian Utiahasa, is pushing for an environmental impact assessment to be done on the Port Harcourt Ring Road. The Supreme Court says the CJN had no phone conversation with President Bola Tinubu. On the foreign scene, Afghanistan women are protesting against beauty salon closures. The news was edited by Martha Okerenkem. Rain showers expected in Port Harcourt this evening. Peace is the path to the prosperity of a nation. Let peace reign. My name is Constance Mega. Thank you so much for listening. Good evening.